Want to say hi to the? You want to say hi? You want to say hi to everyone? Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Look over here. This is this is not a toy. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Anthony, director, actor, and cinematographer. And today I want to share with you the top mistakes I made when getting into filmmaking. Let's get started. The first mistake that a lot of filmmakers make and that I made when getting into filmmaking is that gear makes the best films. Now, this is not true at all. And it's easy to see why a lot of people believe this. There are so many companies coming out with new and amazing filmmaking gear almost every day, it seems like. And a lot of people fall into this trap of thinking, oh, if I can get my hands on that next great light, if I can get my hands on that next great camera, then I'll finally have a cinematic image. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. So, when it comes to gear, yes, having a good camera or a good lens or a good light helps tremendously in making cinematic images. But you don't need every single new piece of gear that comes to the market, right? At the end of the day, a light is a light. And if you know how to use it, then you're going to get cinematic images no matter if it's a couple years old or if it's the newest one that Amaran is coming out with, right? The same thing goes for cameras, right? Pretty much any camera on the market right now from any of the major manufacturers is going to be great for just making your first short film or getting started into filmmaking as a practice. So even if you don't have the budget for an FX6 or one of the newest Blackmagic 12K cameras, you can still get started with filmmaking on a budget. At the end of the day, you could get started with filmmaking even with your phone that's in your pocket. That's the first mistake that I made, is letting my mind think that gear is what makes the best images. The second mistake that I made early on in filmmaking is thinking that the camera package is the most important thing to getting a cinematic image. And if you've been around the filmmaking community for any sort of time, you know that that is not the case. Yes, the camera is super important when it comes to making a cinematic image, but there are so many other things that you can do to any camera to make it even more cinematic. The number one thing on any set for a cinematic image is going to be lighting, right? Making sure that you have soft lighting on your key, making sure that you're able to control the shadows or light up an entire space is going to be way more important than what sensor you're shooting on. If I had to say it, I think lighting is probably the most important thing that most people get wrong on a set. That is the most important for getting a beautiful image. Another thing is going to be the lens that you put in front of a camera. You know, there are recent movies coming out that are shot on iPhone, but they're putting these amazing cinema lenses in front of it that make it look like it's a $50,000 camera, right? What I'm getting at here is that the sensor of the camera or the body of the camera, whatever it is not the most important thing when it comes to getting cinematic lighting or getting a cinematic image in general. The most important things are going to be lighting, production design, your story, the actors, all of the things that you're putting in front of the camera are going to matter way more for getting that film or cinematic look than anything else. The third mistake that I made when getting started with filmmaking is going to be this idea of, oh, I can figure it out when I get to set. I don't need to plan it. You know, the ideas will come to me once we start rolling. And that is simply not the case. I look back to my first short film that I ever created, which was What I Saw on 14th Street. And the film never released because there was a great lack of pre-production planning that went into this film. And it shows. No matter which way I try to cut it or edit it, it just shows that we really didn't plan intensely for this shoot. Now, although we never released a short film, that was a great lesson for us to learn early on in our filmmaking careers, is that you have to pre-plan things. You have to production design things ahead of time in order to maximize your time on set, but also get the most out of the image that you're trying to create. So what does this look like for us nowadays? It's things such as using 3D software like Blender or Unreal Engine to pre-compose our shots before we get to set, to test our lighting, all of these things, so that when I get to set, I've already tried it 3 different ways and I know exactly how I want the shot to look. Making storyboards, making shot lists, sending out call sheets. All of these things are things that we do in our pre-production process to ensure that everyone's on the same page when we get to set and to ensure that our creative vision is being shared once we get there to everyone who is joining us for the day. So this idea of like, oh, I can, plan it all when I get there, it'll just happen when I hit record, that is not the case at all. Now, am I saying that ideas won't come to you the day of when you're on set? Absolutely not. Some of my best shots and greatest ideas come while we're on set, and I say, "Oh, let's try this. Move the camera a little bit and we'll put it there," and I get these amazing beautiful images out of it. What I'm saying though is that in order to have the freedom to explore, to do these things, you have to put in the work ahead of time on the other stuff, the pre-production planning, so that you can have time to get those shots when you're actually on set. And one of the last mistakes that a lot of filmmakers make, and that I made starting out, is this idea of, oh, we can fix it in post. And my team, we joke about this on set every day. When we're on set, we'll say, oh, Anthony will just fix it in post. And this is probably one of the most detrimental things that's happened to filmmaking and to Hollywood in recent years. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, technology has come a long way in recent years. We've got some amazing tech that use AI or that use depth maps or anything like that, where we can basically relight an entire scene in post-production. We can do a lot of tricks nowadays with VFX, with color grading, all of these things to kind of get the look that we want straight out of the editing rather than out of the camera. Now, what I'm seeing is a lot of productions who are what I call quote unquote shooting it safe, right? If you think back to films like The Godfather or older films in the 80s and 90s, they didn't really have the technology to fix it in post. And so what it forced them to do is really make a strict creative decision in camera while they were on set, knowing that when they went into post-production, they couldn't change it. And so we see these really stark creative decisions that were happening back in the day that nowadays we're kind of filming with this idea of, oh, well, if I don't like the lighting, I'll just fix it in post. And if I don't like what that looks like, I could take it out and blah, blah, blah. And what that's leading to is this lack of decision on set and this lack of creative intent because we have so many options moving forward. And so that was a mistake that I kind of lived with for years until recently I've kind of had this change in my thought process of let's try to get as much of it right in camera, in person, with the actors on set. And it does two things. A, it leads to less time in post-production editing trying to fix a lighting that you messed up on set. And B, it just gives you a more overall cohesive look and greater creative intent, knowing that when those shadows are that black, that you meant that in camera, right? Rather than trying to finagle it in post-production. And so if there's any advice in this for you, it would be try to get as much as you can in camera on set. It may take an extra few minutes. It may take a little more time, an extra C-stand, another light, whatever it is. But I promise you, when you get into the editing suite and you start editing, you're gonna feel the difference and you're gonna see just how much easier it is to cut your film together, not having to worry about quote unquote fixing it in post. Now, if there's any mistakes that you've made in your filmmaking career, make sure to leave a comment down below so that we can all learn and kind of share the mistakes and what we've learned from them growing in our careers. And if you like this kind of video, don't forget to like and subscribe down below and click that bell icon so you can stay notified for future videos coming out in the near future. And as always, my name is Anthony. Now go out there and make something cool. I dare you.